Okay, so get ready. Because today we're really diving deep into something that's a lot more complicated than it seems at first glance. Bathroom breaks for kids.
Right.
And more specifically, what happens when they're told, nope, you can't go.
Yeah.
We've got a really interesting mix of stuff to dig into for this deep dive. Like, we've got medical statements signed by, like, tons of doctors, a young guy's story about dealing with going to school with incontinence, and even a news story from Switzerland.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going to make you wonder if we've time traveled or something.
It is wild, some of the stuff out there, and that's what makes it so fascinating to me. How can something as simple as, using the bathroom become such a battleground? You've got this basic biological need, right? But then you've got classroom management, social expectations, and honestly, sometimes a total lack of understanding about the challenges these kids are dealing with.
And it's important to be clear here. We're not just talking about kids having to wait a little bit or being a bit uncomfortable. This isn't a, oh, I'll just wait till recess situation. This is about the possibility of really long-term damage, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And frankly, this statement we found from all these medical professionals kind of shocked me.
Really?
They listed out all the health risks, and I was expecting just UTIs.
Right.
But it's way more than that.
It is. It's so easy to think, oh, they'll go when they get home, but it's not that simple. Holding it in again and again can cause serious problems. UTIs, yes, but we're talking chronic constipation, bladder issues, like they're even more at risk for bedwetting as they get older, and even kidney damage in some cases.
Wow.
And the thing is, all of these risks are even higher for kids who already have other medical conditions, like Jessie, whose story we're going to get to a little later.
It's that statement. The thing that really hit me was how many doctors signed it.
I know, right?
Pediatricians, urologists, even child psychologists. It's like the entire medical field is waving their arms, yelling, pay attention, this is important.
Exactly. Because it goes way beyond just physical discomfort. When you tell a child over and over that they can't use the bathroom when they need to, you're sending a message.
What mess?
That their body's signals aren't reliable, that their needs aren't important.
Oh, wow.
And that can have a domino effect, impacting their self-esteem, how much they feel in control of themselves, even their relationship with their own body.
It makes you think, yeah. And then on top of all that, you add in the social aspect.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where Jesse's story from Aeroflow Urology really got to me.
Yeah.
He talks about what it was like living with autism and experiencing incontinence and how incredibly isolating and shameful that felt for him, especially at school, in a system that was just not set up to understand or help him with what he was going through.
And sadly, Jesse's story is not unique at all. Incontinence, no matter what causes it, whether it's a medical condition, a developmental thing, or even just accidents that happen as kids are learning, there's this huge stigma attached to it.
Well,
it can lead to bullying, kids feeling isolated, and this awful feeling of being different, like fundamentally different, even broken.
he actually talks about how he tried to hide his incontinence by wearing an adult diaper to school, which just, I don't know, just broke my heart reading that.
Yeah, it really speaks to the level of desperation that so many kids in that situation feel. Imagine being so ashamed of something like a bodily function, something you have zero control over, that you would go to such lengths to hide it. And the heartbreaking part?
What's that?
With a little more awareness, a bit of understanding, and the right resources, so much of that pain could be avoided.
It makes you wonder why, yeah.
It's true.
And the thing is, this goes beyond just individual kids like Jesse. It points to a much bigger problem, a system problem. Like, we have those articles you shared about what they're calling the diaper gap.
Right.
Families are already struggling to afford basic necessities. And for families with kids who need diapers, it's a constant stress.
Constant.
And then on top of that, add the pressure of a school system that might not be equipped to handle incontinence at all. It's a lot.
It is. You're right. You're talking about a system that in many ways is designed to punish these kids and their families. And that brings us to a really important question. Are we denying these kids bathroom breaks, or are we denying them something much more fundamental? Their dignity, their right to feel safe and supported in their own bodies.
Which leads us perfectly to this article by Laurie Couture. She basically says, using the bathroom is your right, not a privilege. And you know what? She's not wrong. Think about it. We as adults take this right for granted.
Totally.
We even have labor laws protecting it. But then when it comes to kids, suddenly this basic human need is treated like a privilege, something they have to earn or bargain for.
It's true.
It makes you question, What kind of message are we really sending them? That their body isn't their own, that their needs are less important than following the rules, even if those rules are hurting them.
Exactly. And that's a dangerous message, especially for young kids who are still figuring out who they are, what their body can do, and how to speak up for what they need.
And the crazy thing is, this whole bathroom break thing,
Yeah.
it's not just happening here.
Yeah.
That article you found about Switzerland,
Yeah.
the one with older kids, like middle schoolers, wearing diapers to school, that just blew my mind. Like, seriously, diapers in middle school.
It does sound unbelievable, right? Like you'd think it was a joke article or something.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing they're dealing with over there. It just shows how complicated this issue is.
And it was so interesting to me how the experts in that article had such different ideas about why this is happening.
Totally. I mean, you have some who blame the parents, like maybe they're not doing enough toilet training.
Yeah.
And then others are wondering if it's something deeper, like kids are more anxious these days, or maybe there are a lot of undiagnosed developmental issues.
Makes you think, with all the pressure on parents now, all the information overload, the fear of messing your kid up somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Is it any surprise that some kids are hitting those milestones a little later than usual?
Right. And then you have to think about the teachers, too. They're the ones on the front lines trying to teach and manage their classrooms, and suddenly they're supposed to be diaper-changing experts as well.
It's like that quote from, I think it was a union rep in Buffalo. They said, "Every minute dealing with a toileting accident is a minute taken away from teaching the rest of the class."
Oh, yeah.
And you can't help but feel for everyone involved. It just seems like an impossible situation.
It is. And the kids are stuck right in the middle of it. And that's why it can't just be about saying, let them pee.
Right.
Like, that's a starting point for sure. But we have to deal with the bigger systemic problems here. We can't keep treating this as something to be punished or controlled. We need to create an environment that's supportive for all kids.
And I feel like that's a big part of what Couture's article is getting at.
Right.
We need parents, teachers, and students all talking to each other.
Exactly.
And it's not about blaming anyone. It's about working together to find solutions that work for everyone.
Absolutely. Like, imagine a school where kids feel comfortable saying, hey, I need to go to the bathroom without feeling ashamed. Where parents feel like they can speak up for their kids without being judged. And where teachers have the resources and support they need to handle all of this with sensitivity. In that kind of environment, kids can actually thrive physically and emotionally.
That sounds ideal, but is it even realistic?
It is a tall order, but it has to start somewhere. It starts with admitting that this is a real issue and it has real consequences for these kids. And it starts with being honest about what it really means to create an environment that is truly inclusive and supportive for every single child.
So how do we do that? How do we go from placing blame and judging to actually understanding and empathizing with each other? Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been talking about shifting the conversation, but what does that actually look like in the real world? How do we move from judgment to empathy when it comes to this whole bathroom break debate?
Well, I think a good place to start is with ourselves. Like, what are our own assumptions about this?
Okay, I like that. Challenging ourselves.
Yeah. Why do we automatically assume a kid is trying to get out of class or being manipulative when they say they need to use the bathroom?
That's a good point.
What if we actually believe them? What if we started from a place of understanding that their needs are valid?
It's almost like we need to completely rethink how we view children, especially when it comes to their bodies and bodily functions.
Totally. Instead of looking at it as something that needs to be, like, controlled or policed, what if we were more compassionate, more understanding?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where education comes in. Parents need to know the risks of restricting bathroom access.
Right.
Teachers need support and resources to create inclusive classrooms. And most importantly, we need to help kids feel comfortable speaking up for themselves.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about the practical stuff either. Like for families who are struggling to afford diapers, we need to make sure that's not an extra burden.
Yeah.
And schools, they need the facilities, the staff, the whole 9 yards to support all kinds of needs, whether it's a child who needs help in the bathroom or just someone who needs a couple extra minutes to go.
Exactly. We can't just talk about it. We have to actually do something. It means investing in systems that put kids' well-being first.
It's about moving past this whole idea that going to the bathroom is some kind of reward, some kind of privilege. It's basic.
It is.
It's a human right. We need to create a world where children feel safe, respected, and empowered to listen to their bodies.
You know, going through all of this research, what really struck me is how connected it all is. We're talking about healthcare, education, social justice, basic human rights. It's all woven together.
Wow, yeah.
And it really comes down to how we treat the most vulnerable people in our society, our kids.
It really makes you think. Something as simple as, can I go to the bathroom, can tell you a lot about our values, our biases, how willing we are to actually create a fairer world for everyone.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, if this is something you're passionate about, keep learning, keep asking the tough questions, and most importantly, don't be afraid to stand up for these kids.
Perfectly said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Every step we take toward more understanding and empathy can make a real difference.